Hey, Happy New Year, everybody. Happy 2019. I hope you're having a wonderful January so far. It's been great so far for me. I love that it was sunny outside today. So I'm so happy to be here today to talk about how to recover from a food fall. So, when was the last time you fell? I mean, really fell, like fell down on the ground. Think about it. Maybe you tripped on something. Maybe you slipped. Or maybe you just lost balance and fell down. Well, let's talk about it. What did you do? Well, after you fell, you eventually got back up. Maybe you took some time, you assessed the situation, you looked around to find out what happened to make sense of it all. After all, nobody falls for no reason. So you were curious and maybe you learned something. Maybe you learned how to prevent that from happening again. Like, maybe you learned don't put big bags in front of your bed because you could trip on them. Or maybe you learn to be thoughtful of wearing rubber-soled shoes when it's raining. Or maybe you made a commitment to always hold the railing when you're walking down the stairs. In any case, you learned something and eventually you probably got over it and totally forgot about it. So yeah, you moved on with your life. So you might be wondering, well, what does this have to do with food and eating? Well, think about what happens when you have a slip up with food and eating. Just think about what happens, maybe you're at a party and you had too much cheesecake. Or maybe one night you had too many salty, crispy snacks. Or in another situation, maybe you weren't paying attention and you got too hungry and you got so famished that you ended up overeating. Right? These all sound like possible scenarios. Unfortunately, when people end up eating in this way, they end up taking these eating transgressions and making it mean that they'll never get the food thing right, that they're defective as a person, and they engage in one of these three patterns. See if you can relate to any of these patterns. They might tell themselves, well, now that I overate, I need to be punished. So no more eating for the rest of the day. And so they make a plan to restrict. Well, after a while, they may start to feel really hungry and they end up overeating. Then they get mad at themselves again and they tell themselves, now I'm really going to restrict. And so after a time, they restrict, they get really starving, and they end up overeating again. Have you ever been stuck in this pattern of restricting and overeating? That's option A. Another option that clients might engage in is, if they ever end up eating too much, is they might tell themselves, well, now that I blew it, now that I ate too much, I might as well continue and just start again tomorrow. Or now that I messed up, I might as well continue eating this way and just start again on Monday. Or my favorite, and maybe the most problematic, is, now that I messed up, I'm just going to continue with this and just start again in January. And the reason why that's so problematic is the new year, January, is quite a bit of ways away. So I definitely don't recommend that. Option number 3, when somebody accidentally overeats, the third option that they may partake in is they may do what they call compensate for their eating mistake. And what I mean by that is they may end up, spending extra time at the gym to compensate for the way that they ate. Or they may end up, fasting, taking laxatives, or vomiting, some problematic behavior. So as you could see, there's serious physical and psychological consequences when we fall into any of these patterns. And even if the consequences aren't so severe like the ones I mentioned, they may be more chronic. It may begin to, interfere with the quality of life. The sense of ease and peace around food might be diminished. May impact one's ability to focus, be in a good mood, and really impact somebody's ability to attract what they want in their life. So rehashing the past and being stuck in this pattern could, people could experience lower self-esteem, anxiety, and just overall unhappiness. So it's very obvious that learning how to navigate these inevitable setbacks with your eating is a really important skill. I'm going to say that again. Learning how to navigate the inevitable eating setbacks is a very important skill, especially in the beginning of your journey of learning how to make peace with food. So, learning how to navigate these setbacks are important. Well, because first of all, it improves your self-confidence and your self-esteem, knowing that you could handle this eating issue. Also, it could enhance your peace of mind and your sense of ease. It could help you be more present and less distracted with your eating, improve your health, both physically and mentally. I use my hands a lot, but you can't see them because oftentimes they're down here, just so you know. And also, learning how to navigate these eating setbacks helps prevent useless suffering. Oh wait, my battery is low. Hold on, let me plug you in. Sorry. So back to talk about what I'm talking about. So let's talk about, well, what if you treated your next eating mishap the same way you treat a fall, a slip or a fall? First of all, get back up. No punishing, no skipping the meal, no self-pity eating, and no compensating for what happened. Have your next meal as planned. And if you don't have a plan, that's okay. I'm actually going to discuss that a bit further in the next video I'm going to make for next week. The next step is to get curious, to replace the criticalness in your head with compassion and curiosity. Remember, these eating mistakes never happen in a vacuum. In fact, as far as I know, nobody lives in a vacuum. And if you happen to live in a vacuum, that's weird. To live in a vacuum. I imagine it's dusty. Okay, that's me trying to make a joke. I don't know if it was funny. Anyway, but in other words, I want you to get curious what may have precipitated the fall with your eating, what may have caused this eating mistake. And so what can you learn for next time? Like if you had too much cheesecake at a party, did you notice that that's when your ex walked in? And so maybe what you really need to learn how to do here is learn how to enhance your capacity to feel that sense of discomfort. Or maybe a skill you need to learn is how to leave a party in the most unawkward way possible, right? Or what if you accidentally had too many crispy, salty snacks? Did you notice that maybe it was when you were watching TV? So maybe you can make a commitment to no longer, eat while you're distracted. If you know that tends to cause overeating for you. But if you're stuck on eating while you're watching TV, that's okay too. You just want to make a point of maybe having a preset amount before you start watching. Or what about that time that maybe you got too hungry and you maybe overate? So maybe what you learn for that situation is that it's going to be important for you to have snacks around, to have snacks available so you can prevent that from ever happening again. So maybe having a snack in your car or in your bag or in your purse, right? So having somebody help you with this process, this step of the process, is extremely valuable. That's why targeted coaching when it comes to food and eating is the #1 thing that ends up helping people. So if there's anything I could do to help you, if you could relate to any of these scenarios or to anything I've ever said in any of my messages, I want to invite you to a food freedom call. I'll tell you more about that at the end of this message. So I want to continue here. Because the next step, next time you have a food fall, which may be the hardest step of all, is to move on. This may be a hard step because the brain likes to perseverate on things that it perceives is not going well. The mind likes to be obsessed. It likes to fix and to solve issues. So, it wants to prevent you from making the same mistake. So if you did a thorough job of our previous steps, to get back up, to get curious and to learn, it can make this step a whole lot easier. In fact, if you've done those steps properly, you may have already moved on by now. However, if you notice you keep on thinking about your eating mistake and you just can't get over it, well, it's going to be really important to learn how to practice self-forgiveness. That's right. as you're learning to have a peaceful relationship with food, it's going to be really important to learn how to forgive yourself for your eating mistakes. A lot of people are afraid that if they'll forgive themselves, that they'll end up making that mistake again and again and again. But the opposite is true. Because when people are stuck in self-judgment, they're more likely to be distracted. And as we all know, being distracted and mad at yourself is a big precursor to emotional eating, to overeating, and to compulsive eating. So what I love about using these tools that I mentioned is that every time you end up having a food slip up or a food mistake, you actually become wiser. You become more unconditional in your loving for yourself, and you become one step closer to having the peaceful relationship with food that you want. It's such a powerful way to, witness your own evolution. So let's bring this back home and let's bring this back to you. So reflect on your own life. When your eating doesn't go the way you want it to, what do you end up doing? Right? Do you end up punishing yourself? Do you end up saying, now that I blew it, I'll just, continue? Or do you end up compensating? Or do you end up doing all three of these things? I know I've certainly done all three of these things myself. So what do you end up doing? Obviously, that's counterproductive. So the next question I want you to ask yourself is, what would it be like when you're able to pick yourself back up quicker and easier and get back on track with your eating and being in tune with your body? What would be different? And finally, what's one thing you want to experience or experiment with based on what I talked about from this message? So next time you have an eating mess up or an eating boo-boo, what tool do you want to use from this message? I'd love to know your answer. I'd love to know what you thought about this. So please leave comments below. I read every single one. And so I'd love to know, what are your thoughts about this message? And finally, as I promised earlier, if there's anything I could do to support you with your food, your relationship with eating, I'm offering a food freedom call. It's a gift. It's a complimentary gift from me to you. And during this call, I'm going to help you create, a vision of what you want to accomplish. Because if you don't have clarity on where you're going, you're just not going to go there. And from there, I'm going to help you uncover the things that are sabotaging you, keeping you stuck, leaving you with more energy and motivation on taking your next steps and knowing exactly what those next steps are. So I've loved having this conversation with you. If you want to reach me, you could go to my website at www.vitamineve.com. If you want to have that food freedom call, just fill out the application at vitamineve.com with /application. And I'll put the link in the description of this message. Anyway, it's been so nice to talking to you. I'm Eve Lahijani. I'm a registered dietitian, and I love helping people have peace and freedom and ease with food in any situation, no matter what is happening in their life. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Bye. Thanks for watching, and watch as I awkwardly try to end this video. It's always awkward for some reason.